Good morning, everybody. It's 14th of July, about 7:40 in the morning. Got my ass out of bed this morning and over here early. Again, back to continue prep on the inside, and then I do intend to get this interior painted in epoxy primer today. I'm probably going to wipe down the exterior of the car too, just to minimize the dust in here. Got a couple ideas and comments on a video I posted last night on how to approach this. Maybe different angles. Maybe I will lift the car up. We'll see how it goes. Do some dry runs here, but that's the intent today. The only intent today is to get the epoxy primer on it, and then if I can get it flipped over in preparation of prepping the bottom, though I won't do that because I don't want to create the extra dust to settle out on the fresh epoxy. We'll go that way. So we'll see how it shapes up. About 9:30, I taped off a little bit of the stuff. I probably didn't really need to do that. Just trying to minimize the incidental overspray, especially around here with the trunk lid where I'm going to concentrate on, and then up there on the dashboard where I'm going to shoot kind of straight on. Not worried about the door jams. Just kind of the biggest reason I'm doing this, I guess, is because I'm going to have to go back and strip all this paint off anyway, and I'm just trying to minimize, probably, like I said, probably not required. I started to tape off the holes in the back here so I don't have any bleed through onto the floor, or minimizing that. But I need to hit it with wax and grease remover before I do that, because I'm just going to destroy the tape anyway. And then the other thing that I need to concentrate on is taking the earplugs and putting them in all the threaded holes and things like the paint may gum up. Lots to do here. I got the fender mounts back there, which I had pulled the earplugs out of that just to allow me to clean all the seat mounts, a bunch of stuff underneath the dash for the windshield wiper motor and the master cylinders and things like that. So I don't want to forget that stuff. But otherwise, I think I'm essentially ready to paint after a good cleaning. So we'll see how it shapes up after that. A lot of compressed air blowing all the nooks and crannies. Anywhere there was a seam, I tried to jam the air hose in as close as I could and crank the air pressure up and blow all that stuff out of there. I've had the fan running in here for a while just to try to suck out some of the any particulate that may get up. Going to continue to clean a little bit, and then we're going to start looking at mixing some paint. All right, about 10-20 or so, and though it doesn't really look any different, it is cleaner. I hit it with the first round of wax and grease remover. I'm going to hit it again. Pretty good amount of dust and stuff on the rags, cleaning it up, especially in the boot area here. So we'll do that, and then I'm going to start taping off on the holes. Once I'm taped off on all the holes and getting the threads protected, then I'm going to start mixing the paint. So moving along, definitely going to get paint down today. Whether or not, we'll go from there on how good of a job it is, but definitely going to get paint down. So I can't remember if I've gone through this with you guys before or not when I mixed the paint for the underneath. But I have a little bit of epoxy primer left in here in the Part B activator. So I'm going to use the rest of that can and system, and then I got two more. I'm going to go up a step with the cup here, going to a quart cup. So we'll open this up. This stuff induces for about 30 minutes, so I've got no rush, and it lasts. Pot life is like 72 hours to 120 hours or something like that, depending on the weather. So this is definitely no hurry to go through this process here. But what is important is, especially since this can's been sitting a little while since I've played with it, is stirring it up. I think I made a big point of that before. So I still have more than half a can here. I'm going to mix all of it, even if I might not need it. So, but the stuff is, like I said, pretty potent, not too bad sitting in the can like this. But if you can see, I don't know if you can see that ridge on the end of the paint stick, but that's the solids. It's a high solids paint. So you want to stir it really, really well. Get in the bottom there. They even say in the catalog that mixing is not adequate with like a paint mixer, that you definitely want to use a stir stick. So alright, this stuff is a 1-to-1 mix ratio. So since I have a little bit more than a quart in here, or excuse me, a little bit more than half a quart, I assume that I'm going to have a little bit more than a quart in here, so I'm not going to go above the 5 line. If you can see that, I don't know how zoomed in I am here. If you can look at the 1-to-1 ratio here, the cups are graduated so that you know the 5 here, you fill to the 5 there, and you know you've got a 1-to-1 mix. That's what this is. So pour that guy in. There's my little spill spout trick. Alright, so I was able to get it all in there. Activator doesn't need to really be stirred or anything, but if it's been sitting for a while, again, the SPI recommends that you kind of give it a shake. So now, since I went just above the 5 line here, I'm going to go just above the 5 line for the activator. Alright, cover that up, let it sit. 30 minutes. About 11:45, still got another, I don't know, 8 minutes or so on induction time. And that's again to 30 minutes, and that's minimum. So not a big hurry to do this stuff. This is not like some of the 2K high build primers where you only have, you know, 15 to 20 minute pot life, let alone an induction time, all that kind of stuff. So this stuff is, at least from a rookie like me, forgiving from the standpoint of not having to, you know, absolutely be ready to paint as soon as you mix the stuff up. Anyway, so I'm just kind of going through my plan of attack here. I'm going to get inside the boot first, cover all these areas, get as much as I can under here, turn around a little bit, get as much as I can under here. Going to shoot underneath first, so I'll have to angle the gun up underneath to get underneath the lip of the boot. I'm going to try to do that first, and then work my way in, again trying to get the underneath areas first so that I can be a little bit more awkward and not worry about banging into stuff. So get in all under there, then get the flat of the boot floor itself. Then I'm going to come around from the inside here and hit underneath the sail plate. And I figure that looks like the easiest way to get in there and some of the better way to get in there than trying to really do it anywhere else. I'll come around front, hit the other side, and then I'm going to do, sorry if my camera's a little off, I'm not looking at the screen. Then I'm going to do the behind the seats here. And then I'm going to come around in front here, get underneath into the transmission tunnel, and shoot the interior in the footwells. So all this in here, and it's a little dark in here, get all that in here as best as I can, all that in here as best as I can, and then come out, go from the inside again into the footwell, making sure I'm trying to get all the places that I might have missed, up into the dash, because I'm not going to be able to make that angle obviously, and just kind of work my way from the inside out that way. And then start doing the floorboard down one side and get to probably about where the strengthen is, and then hit the front of the dash, and again come back and finish up the floors, and then go around to the other side starting in the footwell, work my way back, getting to about where the strengthener is, hitting the dash, and then finishing up where the seats go. I figure that's kind of the way to do it. Work from the outer front and back edges and work my way to the center. My goal or my intent in doing it that way is to try to minimize any chances of leaning on stuff or touching stuff that I've already painted because I missed something or whatever like that. I'll try to pay a little bit more attention to places that I've missed. Maybe if I get lucky, I'll be able to go back and hit some of the rear wheel arches that I had missed, but I think I'm gonna have to turn the car over for that anyway. So that's the plan of attack. A couple more minutes before induction. I don't think I'm going to film any of this. I'll come in and do a checkup after the first coat just to see how that went, to give you a time frame and all that. And as far as the gun setup goes, again, I got my notes going here. SPI gives you a really good tech manual that gives you general paint gun setups. 1.3 millimeter cap I got in here. I got my air regulator and the desiccant thing. Got the motor guard and whatever moisture separation I can use at the gun, or excuse me, at the compressor. So I'll got my spray practice board set up over there. I'll get that in the booth. Get my paint suit on, gloves and respirator and all that safety gear, glasses, all that stuff, and go to town here in just a couple minutes. Also, before I forget, I'm looking at about a 72 degree metal temperature, 71.5. That's pretty consistent everywhere. Of interesting note, obviously the paint was at about that same temperature. So there's an epoxy primer can sitting there, and that's looking at about 72 degrees, 71 and a half. You look at the epoxy as it sits there and activates. 72 and a half. It was as high as 73 and a half. So obviously got some science going on in there. I don't know what the humidity is in here. It's not that bad of a day outside, but I don't have a hygrometer in here to know what the humidity is, but it doesn't feel bad. So air temperature in here is probably about that same, 72, 75 degrees, so I'm pretty happy with the environment. All right, past the 30-minute induction time. I'm going to stir the paint one more time, put it in the DeVille Vista cup system. It's got a little liner in here. I probably showed you this already. Little liner in there. Then it's got a cap. That cap gets pinched down by that guy. You load the gun upside down like this and tighten it down so it's snugged up and flush. Then you turn it over. Pull back on the air to evacuate the air out of the system. Draws a little bit of a vacuum in there, and now you're essentially ready to go. You can paint upside down and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to transfer, obviously not all of this because the sizes are quite a bit different here, but I'll transfer some of this, about half of the paint over to this guy, and we're going to get cooking here. I always feel like I'm forgetting something. Now you may notice, or you may not, I'm not using any filter. The last time I used a little insert filter. Let me get it for you here. Use this little guy, kind of sits in the top of the gun here as a filter. A couple things that I read on the SPI forum is that everybody essentially hates those. You don't want to use a filter with the cup system either, though it comes with them. So stir the paint one more time, and then I have a 190 micron filter that I'm going to strain it through. That'll be hopefully sufficient to get out any particles. But again, it's epoxy primer. Not incredibly concerned with the quality of the paint job, so to speak. So now it is very liquidy. You can see how easily that runs. Same as last time. So it doesn't really thicken up at all that you might expect if you've never used this stuff like I did first time. Sure, I got the liner in there. That'd be terrible. Alright, got that most of the way filled. Alright, cap. This kind of cinches down in there a little bit. It's not just, it actually kind of grips a little bit. And get that nice and tight. Alright, so now it starts to get tight right about there. If you can see that, let me zoom in a little bit for you there. You can see how much of a lip is here, but you need to go all the way in. Otherwise, and you can kind of feel it, it's got an extra little 1/16, eighth of a turn or something where it kind of seats finally. You can feel that. So now that's sealed, and everything should be tight. Everything should be good. I double checked this connection here to make sure that that was tight, because I did take it all apart when I cleaned it the last time. That would be horrible again. So now this gun is essentially ready to go. So now there's air in here. You can feel it's kind of tight in here. So what I'll do when I get into the booth is, whoop, hey, there you are. When I get into the booth, I'll pull back on this air and evacuate the air from there. But there you go. So go check the booth one more time, and I'll be back hopefully with a painted epoxy interior. All right, about 5 after 1, I got the first coat on. Used more paint than I thought I would, so I've mixed up another 3 on the 1-to-1 ratio there. I still have some of that original 5 in the quart that I mixed up, original quart. So probably going on a little faster than it should be, but definitely not as easy of a paint job as the first time, as you would expect, I guess, with all the nooks and crannies and everything. Found some places that I had not properly cleaned, like that guy right there. If you can see on the thing for the the soft top, how it's all pitted and weird and everything like that. Not too many of those places, thankfully, but definitely a couple. Pretty good run right there on the dash that I'm going to have to take care of because this is going to be surface paint. I got a pretty good run back here on the fender. That's probably the biggest. And then you can see that mark right there. That's from trying to get the paint gun in all the spots. So definitely more difficult. That's pretty nasty right there. I don't even know what that is. A run / not good adhesion, I think. I missed a whole spot right there. Missed a whole spot right there. So I'm letting everything dry. Probably going to go for much more than the half an hour here and letting it dry, but I got the more paint like I showed you there, curing or setting up to get ready to paint some more on here. So like I said, definitely much more difficult of a job. Thank God it's only primer. I'm going to have to do a little bit more work, I think, in some way before I spray top coat, because I'm going to need to do some top coat in here because not all of the interior is going to be covered in carpet. But I am happy that there's primer on it, and went a little overboard with the primer on the spray pattern there. I got to clean that up. So hopefully, if it goes to plan, what I'm going to do is get the extra coat on there. Probably at about 1:30, I'll hit it with another coat, and then flip the car over. Wait about a half an hour, so about 2:30 or so. Flip the car over. We'll see. I may just leave it. I would love to get the paint on there on the spots that I've missed underneath under the fender wells with a paintbrush, but you know, might be wasting some paint here, so we'll see. Obviously the floorboards went pretty well because that's nice and flat and everything. A little adhesion problem right there, but you know, not too bad. Can't complain too much. About 2:15, and I'm done for the day. 2 wet coats for the most part on the interior. Happy with how it came out. What I did was the spots that I identified that I had missed, I kind of went back and hit them first when I went around for my second coat. So by the time I got around to them, hopefully they had dried a little bit and gave me a semi-second coat. But again, pretty happy with the way that it came out. I'm pretty sure I got all the spots that I missed. Obviously some in the wheel wells and the cutouts in the arches and everything, I'm not going to get all in there, but a little bit better than I thought I would. Got all the tape off. I'm still leaving the plugs in, and the tape on the holes, I'll leave that stuff since that won't really mess up any paint lines or anything. So now the next step is to seam seal it, and I've got about a 7-day window for top coating or really doing anything to this stuff that you want to do. So I want to get back over here early in the week, hopefully Monday maybe, and get the seam sealer in here. Same method as I used on the underside, caulking in the big seams and then paint everywhere else, and then get her flipped over and start working on getting the bottom prepped in preparation for another coat of epoxy sealer, which is going to be epoxy primer but cut down about 25% or so with the urethane reducer, and then I'll hit it with the tinted Raptor liner. So that's the plan going into the rest of this week. Otherwise, again, happy, another somewhat milestone part, I guess you could say. So happy with the way it came out. Top coat is going to be a little tricky with the runs and everything like that, especially in the boot area, because all of that gets top coated. So we'll see how that goes. But otherwise, thanks for watching. Thanks for liking, and of course, thanks for subscribing. Appreciate the comments and the ideas and everything that I've been getting lately. So please keep them coming, and thanks very much. Otherwise, have a good rest of your weekend, and I'll see you soon. Cheers.